He's extremely uncomfortable. I got to use the bathroom. I got to use the bathroom. Okay, great. Boom, boom, boom. We get on the golf cart. We go to the other building to start the interview. At this point, I want to say, I remembered when we started the interview, it was 8:41. So when we started, the start time was 8:41, and we ended at like 9:30 or something like that. And then, he was here. We had to order food because nobody had eaten anything for hours, and our production team was waiting. Anyways, by the time it was done with the interview, he says, I have sources that I'm confident something's about to happen. The last 3 predictions he got right. He's confident that something's going to happen on the 9th, the 19th, and the 20th. They don't want this man to take office. Now, I'm in the business of sizing people up, and when you're in sales and you have compliance, people try to take advantage of clients and insurance and stuff like that. You have to know who's full of it and who's not, and sometimes you have to make tough decisions of working with the Department of Insurance and regulation, all this stuff. Anyways, so finally I'm like, while we're going through it, super nervous. At the end, Rob, it's only me, you, and him in the room. What happened to him at the end of the conversation?
He got very emotional towards the end, tears.
Emotional in a hysterical way, emotional in a way that he didn't want you to know that he got emotional.
Like he was holding back the tears, but he couldn't hold them back any longer.
Yeah. So this is a family man. This is not a guy that's single that has nothing to lose. He has a lot to lose. Sizable business that he's the CEO of, does very well for himself. And so for me, when I see things like this and somebody like this comes up, I'm extremely skeptical. But I'm not one that would sit there and say, well, why not talk about this? Because with all the stuff that's going on right now, who knows? The right person watches this and they may increase security. I don't know if you remember when we were in Hamptons and we did that one podcast when he was giving the RNC speech at like 12:30, we're sitting there listening to this. Do you remember that one right after Eric Trump gives the talk? We're up. And I'm asking the question, I'm like, how do you not have the glass for AV to protect against it and all this other stuff? For AV can spend a little bit more money to put the glass to protect you and all this. So look, if this causes a little bit more, because sometimes you can be overly confident, everything is good, all this other stuff, and then all of a sudden, you make one mistake, you put your guard down, and then you're done. And I hear Dan Bongino saying Secret Service is still not his Secret Service, and you hear Trump defending a lot of the Secret Service that know him and they're protective of him, all this other stuff. All I'm saying is there's 3 big events that's coming up. And if this guy comes in here, by the time it was done, every one of us started off skeptical. If the interview goes out, you'll be able to hear it and make your own decision on it if it does go out or not. At this point, high likelihood it's not going out. 80% it's not going out, where I'm just kind of sharing this with you, and whatever people want to do with this information, they'll do what they want to do with it. But there definitely is a little bit of a different, and by the way, even Blinken the other day said that China, Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, they increased the chances of a nuclear weapon being used from 5 to 15%. Did you see that last week?
Yep.
Did you guys see that last week?
Which is a huge jump when it comes to nukes.
What do you mean 5 to 15%? I mean, 5 to 15%. 5% is 1 out of 20. 15% is 1 out of 7. Is that what? No, Rob, if you just type in Blinken, 5%, 15% nuclear on Google, it'll come up. But it's a story that's a different kind of a story. Blinken, 5 to 15% nuclear. You'll see a story that'll come up. This just came out this week. Is that it right there? We have reason to believe that China engaged Russia and said, don't go there. Blinken told the outlet, adding, even if there's probability, if the probability went from 5 to 15% when it comes on nuclear weapons, nothing is more serious. The Secretary of State also noted that China likely stepped in to persuade Putin not to launch a nuclear weapon into space. Tensions were raised further into November, where Putin lowered the threshold for nuclear strike after. Anyways, so all this stuff is going on at the same time. Tom, how worried are you yourself during this specific season? Because we've been saying January 20th can't come fast enough. How concerned are you?
Well, right now, my concern is around transition of power, and that there are people with desire and means to interrupt that. But I sit there and I look at it, and you really, if you think about it logically, if a crazy act, incapacitates or assassinates Trump, J.D. Vance is the VP elect. And so I worry about disrupting the transition of power, but I don't believe that a single act can interrupt the elected will of the people. You have to go like 5 steps on the other side. Oh, okay. Well, you're gone. So guess what? Biden's still going to be president. He's going to resign. Kamala's president. No. I worry about the interruption from third-party actors because I don't worry about the transition of power. I worry about the orderly transition of power, if that makes sense. That's what I worry about. Is it going to be orderly? Because I believe the will of the people are done. And if you do something and you just flip the switch the other way and say, okay, now we're going to have this different government and stuff because we did this, America's going to go berserk. America, look at the will of the people and the number of the people who came out and voted, and look how things have shifted. Look how close New York and California and New Jersey was very close. The will of the people is spoken. If you attempt to put a different leadership in place, this country is going to go berserk. And so I worry about disruptions to the transition, but I don't worry about like the ultimate will of the people. We've elected and we've made a choice, and they would have to fundamentally go to a completely dark and different place and then exert control on us. It's the whole martial law scenario.
Yeah, I asked him, I said, who was behind this? He gave me a name privately on who he said was behind it. And when we were on here, he didn't give the name. When we had him on here, I said, but who was behind us? Is it a Republican? Is it a Democrat? He says, no, this is not about a Republican or Democrat issue. This is about a globalist and a nationalist. I said, tell me more. He says, what is Viktor Orban? Is he a globalist or nationalist? I said, he's a nationalist. He says, they don't like nationalists. These are people that want a globalist, control.
Yep.
They don't want the nationalist control. And so how about you, Vinny? When you hear stories like this? Yeah, no, I mean, at this point.
We call it establishment, but I think establishment in the U.S., establishment is like 60% globalist.
Well, I think there is Republican, Democrat, there's conservative, liberal, there's establishment, anti-establishment, there's globalist, there's nationalist. I think there's a lot of those that's going on right now that we're kind of going through. But your thoughts with...
Well, in regard to the security, Pat, why in God's earth would Trump trust an outdoor inauguration with the security run by the same people who have been trying to destroy him for all these years? The Secret Service, the FBI, zero trust. They've dropped the ball how many times? And their trust is at an all-time low, right? And that time, I don't think it's about, tradition, especially with that inauguration. It's about safety, okay? And when let's think about it. Let's take a step back. If God forbid something happens, what happens? You're saying like the people will go crazy. I think these type of globalists, they think so far ahead, Pat, that if something happens to him and we blame Russia did it, or we blame, the Iran. I think at the end of the day, America hasn't been at war since when? A major one. I mean, we left in 2021, the withdrawal from Afghanistan. But I mean, when we went to Iraq, Tom, with all we saw.
So you're not counting proxies.
I'm not talking. No, yeah, exactly. No proxies, major war. I think those globalists, the deep state, whoever you want to call them, they're dying for a war. Okay, and our friend Alejandro Mayorkas, I brought this up. Let's say 20 million people have come into the country, right? They said, Thomas Homan, 2 million getaways, not arrested. I hate the word getaways. They just walked in. There's 2 million people in the United States, that's a lower number, that are roaming around the country. And then Thomas Homan said this, the number of people that were arrested that are on the terror watch list in the past 4 years, guess how much the percentage has gone up from Thomas Homan? 3,500% of terrorists on the known watch list have been caught here, okay? So, and then we hear reports that the surface-to-air missiles have come over. Now we're hearing that there's a tactical nuke that's just roaming around. I think the bigger picture is, first of all, if I was him, I'd be like, guys, you know what? We're going to have a ceremony, but this whole outdoor whatever, no, because I don't trust these people. Because what happened when he got shot by Thomas Crooks? Kim Cheadle stepped down, and that was the end of it. All right, who else is in trouble? She just gets fired, Tom, and that's it. God forbid he got his head blown off. We'd be in the same place. She'd be fired, and then America would be in shambles.
After being called before Congress to testify, and many people were saying that they doubted her testimony and they believed that she had allegedly been dishonest on 4 key points.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so you haul her in front of Congress. She's allegedly.
I want to show this. By the way, all this stuff going on. Here's a former CIA agent that I believe went on the Sean Ryan
Sarah
podcast.
Adams.
Sarah Adams warns 1,000 Al Qaeda fighters in U.S. for homeland attack. Go ahead and play this clip, Rob.
Why do we care about Israel? Why is that our problem? It's like, that's just the first in a series that's coming for us. That's like the test run.
The casualty count will be between 50 and 60,000 Americans dead. Am I wrong on that?
So I don't know the count that they're predicting. What I do know is Al Qaeda trained and sent 1,000 attackers.
1,000 attackers. When did they come through?
So they finished training and they deployed them. Now, depending on how they come through, it could take different times, right?
So wait a minute. I just want to clarify. You are 100% certain that there are 1,000 plus Al Qaeda trained fighters within the United States borders?
Well, Al Qaeda says they trained and deployed 1,000 for this attack. First off, I think there's more than 1,000 Al Qaeda members in the United States.
Weird.
But for the homeland attack, that number is based on what Al Qaeda is saying, so they could exaggerate it. However, they did have about 1,400 in the Hamas attack, so the number is not off from what they did in the first round.
And just to piggyback on this interview, and she said it, and I looked it up, and it's true. These terrorists now have undetectable bombs, suicide vests that you could walk into an airport, walk into screening, and nothing comes up. Okay, zero. That the dogs, the canine sniffing bomb dogs, they're not trained on even sniffing for this type of thing. So that's why when I've been saying for how long, Pat, that this open border situation has been the #1 problem, and they did it on purpose because now to get Trump out, that's the goal. That's been the goal. Trump has been the problem since 2016. He's still a problem right now. They have to stop him, and even if the 20th comes and God willing, nothing happens, he's still the enemy. He doesn't want war. Their machine is war. You've said this many times. If you're a big pharma, Pat, and you want to sell drugs, you need sick people. The military industrial complex, their business is war. Building the tanks, getting the bullets, getting the airplanes, getting all the equipment. If we're not using them, those guys they're losing money. We need a war. And I think that's what it comes down to.
I want to go to Adam, and then right after Adam, I want to share with you the story from Politico saying the incredible world-altering black swan events that could happen in 2025. But before I go there, Adam, your thoughts on this story?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, so let me just go one by one real quick. Number one, welcome to daily life in Israel. Hello. The thought of 1,000 Al-Qaeda terrorists or Hamas terrorists or Hezbollah terrorists or a Houthi terrorist or Shiite terrorists just crossing your border and trying to blow things up, that is every single
But wait,
day.
are they letting thousands of people? No, you can't shush me. You can't say that and say they're just letting people in. Israel doesn't have an open border policy. You cannot. You can't. You can't. You cannot say that this is Israel. Israel has a dope border that they don't let nobody come in. We let them in on purpose.
Take down the caffeine.
No,
for a second.
I don't take caffeine. You can't compare the two. Well, this is not an Israel thing, Adam. We have an open border on purpose because the deep state wants to kill our president.
Let me see what point he's making.
No, Vinny, go. It's all
I actually want to know where you're going. Let's see where you're going.
The point is
this is a regular day in Israel. Continue.
Yeah, this is a regular freaking day in Israel, Vinny. Every day the Mossad wakes up or the IDF wakes up and says, we have 1,000 terrorists, if not more, that are trying to kill all our people. So we're getting a little glimpse of what they deal with, not just in Israel, in any normal civilized country that is dealing with terrorists. By the way, do you know who gets killed by terrorists more than anybody? Muslims. So this isn't a Jewish thing, an American thing, or a Christian thing. This is a barbaric thing that reasonable countries, democratic countries, free countries have to deal with. The difference is we have two massive defense mechanisms called the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean that prevent this kind of stuff. But the open borders here in America, yep, it is a massive problem.